River Tyne today is almost silent, a quiet witness to the ghosts of an industrial empire. Its waters reflect the vast open sky, and the only sound are the wind and maybe the odd seagull. It feels peaceful, you might say permanently. But listen closely, you can still hear the edges of time, when the river might have been the loudest place on earth. A time when the banks of the Tyne rang with the sounds of steel on steel, a relentless percussion that forged the greatest ships the world has ever seen. This wasn't just a river, it was production line, a battlefield, an artery of the empire. This was the river of the steel giants being forged from fire and fury. The slipways that you see are empty now. The roar has been replaced by a whisper. The community that served this colossal machine was scattered, their purpose seemingly erased. So what happened here? How does a global powerhouse, the beating heart of a nation's pride, seemingly vanish? Well, come on, we'll find out. We're at Swan Hunter's yard, or what's left of it. And the story of shipbuilding on the Tyne is older than you think. It stretches back centuries. A galley for King Edward I was built here in 1294, and for hundreds of years the river was home to skilled shipwrights building the wooden vessels that carried the precious local resource, coal. Newcastle's identity was so tied to the coal, the phrase "carrying the coal to Newcastle" is an idiom of a pointless task. But by the 19th century, everything changed. The world had shifted from wood and sail to iron and steam, and the Tyne was the perfect place to lead the charge. It had the coal for the furnaces, the ironworks, and generations of men who knew how to work the water. Innovation became the river's lifeblood. In 1852, a ship slid into the water that would change global trade forever. It was called the John Bowes, an iron-hulled steam collier. It could make a round trip from the Tyne to London in just 5 days, a journey that had previously taken a month. And suddenly the Tyne wasn't just building ships, it was building speed, efficiency and profit. And with that the legends were born. Names that became synonymous with Tyneside itself, like Palmer's in Jarrow, Hawthorne Leslie's in Hebburn, and Swan Hunters here in Wallsend. They weren't just shipyards, these were industrial cities in their own right. Palmer's yard at its peak was about a mile long and employed 1,000 workers. Entire towns grew up in the shadows of these cranes. Generations of families lived in tight-knit streets of terraced houses. Their lives depended on the sound of the shipyard's whistle. It was more than a job, it was a birthright. A young lad didn't wonder if I would go into the yards, but which trade would he learn? He would serve a 7-year apprenticeship to become either a plater, a riveter, a shipwright, a master of his craft. Filled with immense pride, they were building the modern world. The early 20th century was the Tyne's golden age. It was an era of breathtaking ambition. In 1906, Swan Hunters launched the RMS Mauretania. At the time, she was the largest and fastest ship in the world. Then came the wars. The character of the river changed. The yards became the arsenal of the sea. Production ramped up to fever pitch. The rhythmic hammering of the rivet guns, a constant drumbeat of defiance. Destroyers, aircraft carriers, including the likes of the HMS Ark Royal, and countless other vessels poured out of the Tyne, and even women joined the workforce to replace the men who had gone overseas to fight. But even then, the cracks were starting to appear. While order books were full, the world was changing. After the Second World War, other nations like Japan, Korea began building new hyper-efficient shipyards that could build ships faster, bigger and cheaper. The British yards were still using the equipment that built the Mauretania in 1906, and the breakup of the British Empire meant fewer guaranteed contracts, and global trade patterns were shifting. The world's demand for ships hit a massive slump in 1970. It came at the worst possible time for the struggling British industry. The golden age was over, and the long, slow, painful decline had begun. The fall was a slow, agonising death of 1,000 cuts, as it was. It started in the 60s, accelerated in the 70s and 80s. The names that once stood as titans of the industry now became silent, just little whispers, and then just became memories. The closures were brutal. One by one, the yards fell silent. Generations had defined themselves by the ships they had built. The work was dangerous, deafening, and physically punishing. But the work that was done was with immense pride and skill. It fostered a unique sense of community and camaraderie, a bond forged in the yards. When the work disappeared, it left a void. It wasn't just a job that was lost, but a whole way of life. The last major yard closure was Swan Hunters, and in 2007 the giant cranes, the iconic symbols of the Tyne's power that had dominated the skyline, were dismantled and sold to a shipbuilder in India. The ghosts of steel were finally exorcised. So what's left? A river flows on, but it's a different river now. The banks are quiet and dotted with new housing estates, business parks and the lakes. The colossal noise and energy has been replaced by walking paths and art installations. Yet the spirit of the Tyne endures. It lives on in its fierce pride of the people whose parents and grandparents built the world's greatest ships. It lives on in the stories that are passed down in the families and the black and white photos of big hulls sliding down the slipways into the river. As you can see, new life is returning to the river. Ambitious regeneration projects were underway, with plans for clean energy parks on the very land where the shipyards once stood. The focus now is on advanced manufacturing and offshore wind, a new kind of engineering for the new century. Tapping into the region's deep-rooted skills, it's a future that's looking forward, but one that was built quite literally on the foundations of its industrial past. The river's story is about spectacular building and dramatic losses, but it's also about resilience. If your family has any connections with the shipyards or any of the UK industrial heartlands for that matter, drop a comment down below. We'd love to see them, and we will answer to most of them. And if you like this video, don't forget, hit that subscribe button, give this video the thumbs up. Hit that notification bell if you want to see more videos like this. Where the steel giants may have gone, but their ghosts remain etched into the landscape where we stand. But the question is, where does the river go now? What legacy will it leave in the future? And no doubt it'll reinvigorate itself like it is now. Thanks for watching.